Things are gonna get crazy.
Most everyone's mad here.
Hello, everybody, and how are you doing, everyone? And welcome back to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Have you been good? Have you been doing good this past week? I know that things have been pretty wild on my side, especially when looking at all the animation news going on. And by the way, just a quick side note, thank you so much, Meta for being this new fish on the start of this episode right over here. Thank you so much for that. But yes, when it comes to this past week, oh boy, let me tell you, there's been a lot to go and set things up for this episode. Like, it's really building up to make this a real wild ride, especially with what happened during the weekend. Like, not just with animation news, but even with just the news in general, with entertainment news, with what's been happening with the ending of the Olympics and all that kind of stuff, especially with what happened at the BAFTAs. I don't really have time to go and fully discuss about the events that happened in there and all the winners and all that kind of stuff. But let's just say that I am well aware where it did have a lot of its highs and lows. So yeah, it really was a lot just on that alone. But I will say, however, even in here, there's going to be quite a lot to go and discuss. A lot of fun stuff going on, but at the same time, some controversial stuff that has occurred at the same time. But either way, though, this will emphasize the crazy of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So, with all that said, I will now go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it. Who is ready for this now? All right, let's see now. Yes, I see people are prepared. Okay. Yes, I see people are ready. All right. The hype is up. That is great to hear. And now, with that said, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that I have for you today, we are going to go and take a look at a couple of trailers that I would honestly argue feel a little bit late. These are the kind that honestly I expected them to come during the Super Bowl a few weeks ago. At the same time as when we've had some of the others, like with The Adventures of Cliff Boone and Minions and Monsters and stuff like that. But no, apparently they decided to come in a little bit later. But then again, hey, it's better late than never. And I guess those trailers here might have taken some attention away from like the really cool halftime shows that we have gotten, or technically the shows in general, like with Green Day before the game and also the halftime show with Bad Bunny. So, without further ado, let's go and actually check these trailers out, starting with our first one right over here, which may not be an animated movie, but it is definitely going to launch us off into this year's summer season, especially with the blockbusters that are going to be coming up. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and begin this by checking out the trailer for the upcoming Star Wars movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Let's save the rest for after dinner.
And that is The Mandalorian and Grogu, to which the movie will be coming out in theaters on May 22nd. Now, I will say that I remember back when Disney Plus was brand new, I actually got into watching The Mandalorian, and honestly, at the start of it, it felt like a very solid series, and I really did get engaged during the first season, and I continued forward with the second season, and that one I did also find to be pretty awesome as well. Now, I know nowadays that some people could debate if they have aged well, especially with the presence of Gina Carano making things extra awkward. But still, though, as a series, I will say it was very well crafted with the first two seasons. However, with the third one, I wasn't really that big of a fan of it. And I know this is not necessarily a hot take, and many people have expressed the same opinion, but my personal problem with season 3 and why I felt it was very hard for me to get on board is that I felt like it was leaning in way too much on trying to make all the references related to the animated Star Wars shows. Like, I know it wasn't the first time that The Mandalorian did that. Like, yeah, it's one thing to have Ahsoka Tano coming in season 2. Like, okay, fine, you want to do that. Like, I get it, especially when she was like a very prominent character in Clone Wars. But then in season 3, they throw in all of these deep cuts from both Clone Wars and Rebels, where now it's at the point where it feels like if you want to understand the full context of what's been going on with The Mandalorian season 3, you have to do a bunch of your homework where you have to watch a bunch of episodes of Rebels and a bunch of season of Clone Wars just to go and understand, like, what's going on in this little scenario? Who are some of these characters? Why is this cameo so significant? And in that regards, that kind of turned me off from not just The Mandalorian, but even from Star Wars for a little bit. I mean, granted, there were some things that I still highly enjoyed that came out of them, like Star Wars Visions, for example. But still, I feel like it fell into the same problems as the MCU, where it's relying too much on the nostalgia of not just their older films, but also on the animated series that makes it a lot more narrow in terms of who, like, the new stuff is for specifically. Because if I need to do a bunch of homework to try to go and watch a bunch of episodes from the animated show in order to understand some of the context of Star Wars, then honestly, I didn't really feel like I would be on board with it. And I will say, like, I know there's been also a bunch of other stuff that I really need to catch up on. I mean, of course, I did hear amazing things about Andor, and that is something I honestly should go and actually catch up. Acolytes, I haven't heard about it, and especially, like, when there's the whole controversy behind it, I'm not buying into the whole drama that went into it. Like, maybe I'll consider checking it out there, but honestly, it's just, I don't know. I felt like after season 3 and, like, even a little bit with the Book of Boba Fett, I would just, like, it kind of turned me off a little bit of Star Wars for a little while. But then watching this trailer here of The Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm not going to lie, I kind of feel a little bit of that excitement again of watching Star Wars, or especially to go back into the world of The Mandalorian. Now, I'm not 100% sure if it requires to watch season 3 again, like, just to understand, like, the full context of what's been happening, or let alone, like, I don't know if this really is something where you have to watch, like, a bunch of the new Disney Plus shows in order to get some context to watch this movie in particular. But I will say, for the most part, with what they are presenting in this trailer, it doesn't look like you have to do that. In fact, the story doesn't really seem that important, where it's showing that it's leaning a lot more on the blockbuster aspect. It's the fact that people would want to go and watch this because of, well, as the title suggests, you want to see The Mandalorian and Grogu. You want to see the cool bounty hunter with the baby with Jedi powers. That's essentially the main selling point of what they want to go and present in this trailer. And I'm not going to lie, they did this extremely well. And it's not just with the action, because I got to say, like, there's a lot of scenes in here with a lot of epic moments that they would go and highlight, like especially right over here with the Mandalorian fighting against that muscled Hutt, or especially like, you know, when you got like these like big, you know, like these big spaceship battles that are going on, and you see him like you see the Mandalorian going on his spaceship and going into hyperspace and stuff like that, or hyperdrive. Like those scenes are honestly a lot of fun. Like for the exhilaration of a blockbuster movie, yeah, that definitely feels like something that could be absolutely engaging. But not just that, however, but I'll also add that the comedy is also a lot of fun too. Like that was something that also got me on board, especially when you see the dynamic between the Mandalorian and Grogu. Like immediately starting off with the opening, like this little part right over here with Grogu just pushing all the buttons.
Hey, never touch the buttons.
Like that part, okay, that's actually pretty cute. That's actually pretty funny. And you do get a lot of those dynamics where, of course, Grogu is going to be bringing in a lot of that baby-like charm and baby-like comedy. And I'll give it that it actually is effective. It actually does work decently well. But then again, there is also another factor that needs to be brought up, and I know many people have been mentioning this, is the one unexpected cameo that nobody saw coming. And even though there's been many filmmakers who have been a part of Star Wars, and even with The Mandalorian, because who could forget the appearance of Werner Herzog coming in like, let me see the baby. There is another one who stepped in to make his Star Wars debut, and that is none other than Martin Scorsese.
I can use some information.
Whoa, for this price, I'll tell you whatever you want.
I'm looking for a Hutt.
Close for the night. Thank you.
So yeah, and it's kind of funny where you definitely hear that it is Martin Scorsese. It's very much similar to the appearance of Werner Herzog, where like he wasn't really being any other character. Like a lot of his personality is mostly being himself in the feature in the series, and that actually did manage to work pretty well. And even in here, it's just funny to hear. It's like, oh yeah, that definitely sounds like Martin Scorsese, not just in terms of his voice, but also the personality that he would go and provide. And even in animation terms, it's very similar to the pufferfish in Shark Tale. Like just, you know, fast talking, a smart alecky kind of guy. Like you could hear like, oh yeah, that's totally him. So maybe we will be experiencing more of those little cameos as well. And I just gotta say, honestly, with this trailer, it doesn't fully convince me that this is going to be like an amazing film, or it's going to be like one of the best movies of 2026. But it does present that it's going to be a fun blockbuster. And in that regards, I think I'll be on board with it. It does have me pretty curious to see how the feature is going to be in theaters. The only thing that, again, I'm hoping for is that it doesn't rely too much on those deep cuts or asking the audience to do their homework prior in order to understand the events. Not just watching the previous episodes of The Mandalorian, but also with understanding like some of the context of Clone Wars or Rebels and stuff like that, because maybe I've already said this, but I did see in the trailer there are going to be a few of those characters that will also be appearing onto this movie as well. But still though, is this movie going to be great? I don't know. Is this movie going to be fun? Honestly, that's what I'm hoping for, and this trailer is showing great promise for that. So, if you are interested in checking out The Mandalorian and Grogu, then keep in mind that the movie is going to be coming out in theaters on May 22nd. And with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, what did you all think about the trailer of The Mandalorian and Grogu? Did it actually convince you to go and check out the series? Are you guys interested in checking out this movie? And is there anything you'd hope to check out? Or are you pretty cynical about it and you don't think this would really work out because of, well, the current state of Star Wars? In fact, let me go and actually ask a question. I might as well go and create a poll for you all. So I'm just going to go and write down over here, and I might as well go and ask, are you interested in seeing... hold on, I didn't write interested, right? In seeing The Mandalorian and Grogu. So I'll write down yes, and then I'll write down no, and see what the chat wall has to say. All right, so let's see here. I'll admit I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I did watch The Mandalorian, and I remember liking the first 2 seasons, even though season 3 was underwhelming. But the trailer did impress me. Visually, it looks great, the action scenes look awesome, and Baby Yoda is adorable as always, so overall, it does look impressive. And considering this is the first Star Wars movie we've gotten since The Rise of Skywalker, I do hope we'll get a solid return of Star Wars in theaters. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, as I've seen the chat wall mention this a bunch of times, but yes, it is true that this is going to be the first Star Wars movie that we've had in 6.5 years, actually. And even though I actually did enjoy the sequel trilogy, I did like The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. But with Rise of Skywalker, however, let's just say that I think The Mandalorian and Grogu will not have that high of a bar to jump through when it comes to making a better movie than that. All right, anyways, let's see. I can already tell that Star Wars fans are going to hate this movie. But then again, what don't Star Wars fans hate? Am I right? This looks like it's going to be awesome. Mando looks badass, Grogu is adorable, and Gina Carano is nowhere in sight. What's not to love? This is going to be yet another fantastic Star Wars movie. It will be just what I need to hold me over until Star Wars Starfighter. I'm still waiting on Bo-Katan, though. If Grogu's dad has to be in this movie, so does Grogu's mom. I mean, all the answers will be revealed much later. I mean, one step at a time, folks. All right, so I'm a little split on this. It's a little funny that we got Martin Scorsese's of all people to cameo. Nice, his career is bouncing back after his Kool-Aid movie went bust. If you get the reference, you win a cookie. But the visual effects look kind of weak, and truth be told, I haven't seen the show, so I'm a little lost. If I decided to watch this, I'm gonna need to watch the series. Otherwise, I'm gonna be as lost as I was trying to navigate Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, I mean, at the bare minimum, I would say, like, maybe watch season 1 of The Mandalorian. Like for my personal recommendation, if you want, like, a basic knowledge of it, just watch season 1 and you should be good in order to go and check out The Mandalorian and Grogu. Now, I know, like, it seems a little bit strange after ranting about, like, oh God, I hope I don't need to do a whole bunch of homework, but I guess if you do feel a bit lost, if you don't understand, like, the main context of what's going on, like with The Mandalorian and Grogu, like, if you're still that kind of person who would refer to Grogu as Baby Yoda and don't understand much beyond that, then at that point, yeah, it's probably worth watching the first, it's worth watching the first season just to get a little bit of that simple context, and you should be good to go. That, or maybe just go and read, like, a summary on Wikipedia or something. And by the way, it looks like we got some very interesting results in the poll that I have made, in which it looks like only 63% of you, so not a big majority, but a majority nonetheless, have actually said, yes, you are interested in checking out The Mandalorian and Grogu, while 38% of you have actually said no. So very intriguing results right there. Let's see what other comments that we have. Poor little puppet baby Yeddle. I don't really care for Star Wars and I hate the fandom, so yeah, I'm not gonna watch it. I won't say anything more than that because if the fandom makes me not want to watch anything Star Wars, I hope people enjoy it. All right, no, that's honestly fair. Like, I get it, and we all know that the toxicity of the Star Wars fandom is like one of the most infamous of them all in terms of fandom culture. So I get it. If the fandom really turns you off from watching that, then honestly, I completely understand why you would not want to go and see The Mandalorian and Grogu. So I get it. But still, though, like, for those of you who want to go and enjoy it, I hope you do. And for those of you who don't want to go and watch it, because of like the fandom shenanigans, I get it. All right, let's see. Now this is pod racing, or more like a trailer. I will admit, while I thought the teaser trailer was okay, I can understand why other people weren't convinced why the duo needed to film, and the Super Bowl spot didn't help either. But now with this trailer, it does give a little more hope for this, especially with embracing the gunslinger Western side of Star Wars. Of course, this is a trailer, so the film can be different, but from what we saw here, there may be hope. This is the way. I was wondering when someone is going to go and comment on that, or actually would go and say that little catchphrase. But yeah, you know what? You do bring up a very good point where, like, in here, in the trailer, they actually do emphasize a lot on the Western aspect. And that's always been the big appeal of The Mandalorian, at least with the first 2 seasons, where they do emphasize the Western aspect of the entire show, and especially with characters like the Mandalorian and his job as a bounty hunter. So it's great to see that spirit is going to be coming back, or at least what the trailer promises us, that the Western aspect will be coming back in this. All right, let's see what other comments are there to read. I'm starting to feel that a Star Wars verse is getting infected by the MCU fatigue virus, so I'm going to pass on this one. Also, will they bring Darth Talon anytime soon among the future Star Wars cinematic universe? By the way, I'm more of a Gundam appreciator. Would be cool if there were a Star Wars Gundam crossover. Well, that'll depend on Disney if they want to go and have a discussion with the people who make Gundam in order to make that happen. Although, honestly, it's not impossible to go and imagine. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure there might have been like a collaboration between Disney and the company behind Gundam to make that kind of crossover to happen. Maybe not necessarily with Star Wars, but like maybe something with Disney or something like that. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on it, but I'm sure there might have been a history where they have collaborated before. So doing something related to Star Wars and Gundam would not be impossible to imagine or to see if that could potentially become real. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment and then we're going to go on to our first break. So let me see here. There is some anticipation for The Mandalorian and Grogu. I really love the series and even a bit of Boba Fett. This looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Granted, I get it. Your only main focus is just the series, not the entire franchise. It's too much to go into, especially with Cad Bane. There's a chance they'll still do that franchise extension, especially with the appearance of Zeb from Rebels. But I do have a sense this will carry the spirit of the first two for the first 2 seasons. I'm in for it. Okay, so admittedly, there seems to be a little bit of a mixed reaction, but then again, it's not really because of the movie itself. It's more because of the entire franchise of Star Wars that can be a bit of an iffy deal right there. But if you are interested in checking out The Mandalorian and Grogu, then keep in mind that the movie shall be coming out in theaters on May 22nd. And with that said, we are going to go on to our first break. And when we do come back, I got one more trailer to go and show you. But this time around, it will be an animated trailer. And oh boy, I think we're going to have a lot to go and discuss about this film, especially when this is, debatably, one of the most talked about upcoming animated features. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back. Now, our next trailer that we're about to see is, like I mentioned, one of the most talked about upcoming animated features. And in this case here, in terms of what people are talking about with this, well, sometimes it's not necessarily a great thing, especially when people would keep bringing up that this is unnecessary. Like, there is a group of people out there whom literally for years, ever since this was first announced, they are ready to hate it. They are ready to bash it. They are ready to go and make their massive rants online. And even when it comes to many of the little teases and little tidbits that we've been made aware about, they didn't really help the cause and didn't fully convince us as to why this movie needed to be made or why this movie is going to be necessary or let alone to be good. But then there was one thing that changed all that. Suddenly, this trailer came and the discussions suddenly seem to shift a little bit. So with that said, let us now go and check out the trailer for the upcoming Pixar sequel, Toy Story 5. Whoops, time out. Forgot to put in the audio. All right, there we go. Now let's check out the trailer.
Do you, Forky, take Karen and Beverly to be your beloved bride?
It's good to see them fighting again.
It sure is.
And that is Toy Story 5, to which the movie is going to be coming out on June 19th. But wait, there is more to this little update. This is not just about a trailer, but there's also a bit of news that has been revealed in relation to Toy Story 5, in which Pixar has now mentioned about the rest of the cast that's going to be in the movie. Of course, there is a whole bunch that we already know that are going to be featured. We know about Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, and Joan Cusack, along with Tony Hale reprising his role as Forky, and also Conan O'Brien is going to be playing a new character. But on top of that, we have also got a list of new people coming in and some recurring ones as well, in which, moving to my source here on Animation Magazine, it states here that in which it says we got more actors such as Craig Robinson, who's going to be playing as Atlas, a cheerful talking GPS hippo toy. We also got Shelby Rabara, who's going to be playing a camera toy named Snappy. We got Scarlet Spears, who's now going to be playing as Bonnie. Scarlet Spears, by the way, you may remember her. In fact, you may have actually seen her recently as the young version of Glinda in Wicked for Good. And then also you got Michelle Harris, who's going to be playing another girl named Blaze, and also Maddie Matheson, who's going to be playing another toy named Dr. Nutcase. On top of that, in terms of the reprising roles that we have gotten, we got John Ratzenberger, who's going to be playing Ham again, Wallace Shawn as Rex. We also got Blake Clark playing as Slinky Dog. Annie Potts is returning as Bo Peep. Bonnie Hunt is going to be playing Dolly. Melissa Villasenor as Karen Beverly, the knife who is marrying Forky. We got John Hopkins, who's going to be playing as Mr. Pricklepants. Christian Shaw as Trixie. We got Ernie Hudson, who's now going to be replacing the late Carl Weathers to play as Combat Carl. And Keanu Reeves is going to be coming back as Duke Kaboom. But one of the most interesting new additions is actually regarding the Potato Heads, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, considering that their respective actors have unfortunately passed away. Well, the good news with that is that they actually got some professional voice actors who will be taking on their roles, in which we got Jeff Bergman as Mr. Potato Head and also Anna Vocino as Mrs. Potato Head. And one thing that I will say about Jeff Bergman playing as Mr. Potato Head, Pixar absolutely made the right move to bring him on board, considering that not only is he a prolific voice actor and like whenever he's going to be involved, you know he's going to do a fantastic job, but also he is an amazing impersonator, and he has actually proven that he can actually do an amazing Don Rickles impression in order to play as Mr. Potato Head. And if you don't believe me, I actually have the evidence here. There is a video that Jeff Bergman has done to present his version of Mr. Potato Head. So just have a little listen.
All right. Get a move on here, folks. There's nothing to see here, not unless you're ages 3 and up. It says it on my box, ages 3 and up. Get out of here, you uncultured swine.
So yeah, right. Is there any more? Okay, no, it's just him smiling. All right, that's it. But still, though, this is a wonderful example of the work that he was able to go and do. And honestly, this is a great, like, honestly, they casted him perfectly. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this is actually the first time that he got to do a voice, or that he got to do the voice of Mr. Potato Head. Like, maybe he's done it for some of the side projects for like the Disney attractions and stuff like that. But still, though, like, honestly, that casting is just beautiful. Like, he's going to do a fantastic job to pretty much carry the torch of Don Rickles to play as Mr. Potato Head. But with that said, let me just get into the trailer. And I'm just going to say, as much as I've wanted to be optimistic in the past about Toy Story 5, and honestly, I wanted to go and like move past the cynicism that's been surrounding it with everybody saying that it's like unnecessary and stuff like that. Like, I wanted to see proof to know if this feels like it's going to be worthwhile, because they did propose some interesting concepts, but we have yet to actually see what they would do with it, rather it be from like the teaser that they would show before, or like from the previous little things that they have mentioned in the past. It's like, there was something about it that admittedly I just wasn't 100% convinced if like this is going to be worthwhile, if this is something that would make me feel excited for. And I'm going to be honest, folks, at the risk of getting some hate on my side, at the risk of being called a Disney shill once again, this is what I'm talking about, folks. I have been waiting for this trailer to come. This is what I wanted to see. This is what I want to see, to just have a taste of some of those ideas that they have proposed and how they would go and deliver it. And honestly, they managed to get it right. Like, first and foremost, one thing that I was very happy to go and check out here is actually with hold on, it's whoops, no, hold on. Settle down there, boy. Is actually right over here with Jessie. Like, one of the big things they have presented is that Jessie is actually going to be the main character. Like, now they have provided an explanation of how Jessie is going to be taking the lead role of this movie, especially when technically she's like the new quote unquote sheriff of the entire toys, and always taking the lead role in terms of the playtime that Bonnie would have with her toys. So seeing that is honestly great. And then when introduced with the narrative of toys versus tech, now we're starting to see Jessie's perspective of how she's having now she's being very worried about being replaced by the tech, because as we all know, Jessie has abandonment issues. I mean, we're all familiar with that song in Toy Story 2, that real tearjerker over there. So in that regards, it's going to be very fascinating with how Jessie is going to be experiencing that PTSD of maybe facing abandonment again, now with the introduction of tech that is taking over Bonnie's time. And by the way, there's a reason why I purposely left this little image right over here from the trailer, because this should honestly look quite familiar to you, because it looks like that little scene of When She Loved Me could be coming back. We could actually see an animated remake of some of those moments, especially with this one right over here. So yes, we may experience another tearjerker from Jessie once again. We may see another When She Loved Me in this. So that's one thing that I'm honestly very happy with what they have presented. And then speaking of the toys versus tech thing, that's also another aspect that is honestly great to go and see. And that's especially in terms of the approach of the whole theme of toys versus tech, and especially how this lily pad here is going to be the villain. And so far with what they've been presenting, even though previously this is another aspect that a lot of people have been very cynical towards in regards to how they've already done this before in one of the holiday specials. Oh, we've already heard this message a bunch of times. But in this case here, it does feel fascinating with how they're going to approach this, and especially with how they have presented Lilypad as a villain, and not to mention the discussions that they would be having in terms of toys versus tech. Honestly, one of my favorite scenes in the trailer they have presented so far is actually the communication that Jessie and Woody had when talking about how things are in the world of toys and how they're struggling I wouldn't say struggle to survive, but struggle to find a home and to find a kid that they could be happy with, where from there, they would go and talk about, as Woody says, toys are for play. Tech is for everything. So there, that fear of replacement is not just in regards to Jessie, but also with all the toys. So you could already sense that they're going to have a real great discussion about that. And that's honestly one of the most underrated things about the Toy Story movies, is how they would go and have these thought-provoking discussions. It's one of the reasons why I adore Toy Story 4, especially with its analysis on Woody. I think they did a beautiful job in there, and why I personally think that not only it's as good as the other Toy Story films, but honestly one of the best animated movies of the last decade. And speaking of Woody, by the way, that's also another great thing to go and see. It's how did Woody come back? And they actually address that very well, because that's one of the big things that people have been wondering. Ever since the ending of Toy Story 4, in which Woody decided to go and separate from the gang so that he could be with Bo Peep and rescue abandoned toys and stuff like that. People have been wondering, how is Woody going to be suddenly coming back to the gang? And they actually answered that pretty well. And not to mention, what is easily one of the most talked about things about this trailer is, of course, Woody's new hairdo, or his updated hairdo, where now Woody has a bit of a bald spot going on, which is honestly funny, but I do get it, especially to show the passing of age. And not to mention, I will say, it's pretty funny the way they show the aging of these characters like Woody, and the way they they present how he would be quote unquote bald, where some of the brown on his hair has been erased to expose like the neutral pink that would be in the back. So honestly, it is a bit of a clever move that they've done in there. And honestly, the best thing is, even though there are, even though they did answer a whole bunch of questions that we've been wondering, there is still a lot more that we don't really know of. Like, they only gave us just a tiny bit of a teaser when it comes to all those malfunction Buzz Lightyears, even though before, I think they said previously that they're going to be playing an antagonistic role where they're also going to be villains. But at least in here, it looks like, I don't know, things have been switched, or the way that they're portrayed feels a lot more positive with showing all the Buzz Lightyears as backup. So I don't know, maybe things have changed, but they still haven't answered how the malfunction Buzz Lightyears are going to be playing a part in this. And also, we haven't yet heard any of the significant new voices. I mean, yeah, we got a taste of like Bonnie and Lilypad, but we have yet to hear from Craig Robinson's character. We have yet to hear from Conan O'Brien's character. So there's still a lot more that's going to be in store. So overall, honestly, this is a fantastic trailer. And again, this is a trailer that I've been waiting for, and now I can confidently say that I'm excited for this. I am absolutely hyped up to see what they have in store with Toy Story 5, and there might be a good chance that it could be as much of a masterpiece as the previous features, like with 4, 3, 2, and 1. So honestly, I feel very thankful they finally got to go and answer some of these questions, like to provide us some basic context of what's going on in this movie. So now I officially feel hyped up for it. And if you're excited to go and check out the movie, then keep in mind that it's going to be coming out on June 19th. So with that said, now I would like to pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the Toy Story 5 trailer? Are you guys excited to check this movie out? Did this update your opinion on Toy Story 5? Or are you still unsure if it's still necessary to have a Toy Story 5? Let me know what you all think. And honestly, I'll go and make another poll over here. And I'm going to go and... what the fridge? Wait, where's the poll? Hold on a sec. I wrote it. I don't know if it correctly posted. A poll is already active. What the fridge? What? Is this a new feature on Twitch or something? Or like, I didn't make this poll. Like, what is this? What the fridge is going on? I'm a little bit scared. What's happening? I didn't write down. Like, it just automatically did. Will you be seeing Toy Story 4? Like, I wanted to ask if you guys like the trailer, but okay, this is already a bit surprise. This is a bit of a surprise. So, all right, I guess we're gonna go with that. Anyways, let's see what the chat wall has to say. All right. Let's see what we got here. If I may borrow a quote from young Frankenstein, it could work. Even as someone who greatly cherishes the previous 4 Toy Story movies, I still need some convincing, but somehow this trailer did it. So far, Toy Story 5 managed to justify why Woody is back. Plus, let's face it, the debate over screen time versus actual play seems to be never ending. Heck, you could even see Bonnie's brain beginning to rot. So you know what I'm willing to let Pixar cook. All right. Now, anyways, let's see this one. Not much to say, really. We all know the series should have ended after the third one. We all know that it's going to make $1 billion regardless of how much we complain. We all know we all need to see Hoppers in theaters, so Toy Story 6 won't happen. Still, I can't act like it's going to be a bad movie. I know it's going to at least be competently made. The wedding scene looked cool, at least, but did Gonzo know about this one too? You know what? You do bring up a good point, though. Like, that's another great thing where it does provide with a lot of surprises, especially with that opening scene in the trailer with, you know, the little play time with the wedding, where suddenly the style just completely changed. And it's honestly very nice. Like, now we got into the imagination of a kid, and like we see the update, you know, we see the updated look and how like it's very dramatized. You know, it's honestly very cool. I really like to see that. That was actually a great touch. So I did enjoy that a lot. Okay, so let's see now. Yeah, I'm 100% sold on this. The animation is really nice, especially that watercolor sequence at the start. God, Gato is going to look gorgeous, and I adore how this is now unambiguously Jessie's story, especially since it looks like they're revisiting her story with Emily. Also, I love the detail with Woody going bald, but bro needs to see the old guy from Toy Story 2. Wait, did he die? Oh, the prospector? Nah, honestly, well, no, I don't think he died per se. He just moved on with another little girl who loves decorating her toys. So I don't know. It would be interesting if they would bring back the prospector for something. But then again, I don't know if like there would be a way to bring him back in this specifically. But that would be an intriguing idea for the future, if somehow there would be a way for the prospector to suddenly come back. Let's see what we got here. What other comments is there to read? Okay. Yeah, I'll go with this. In Toy Story 4, they did something honorable. They went into the vaults. They used archived recordings. They respected the estate by the man by ensuring that if the character spoke, it would actually be Rickles speaking. By moving to a replacement now, they aren't just continuing the character, they're diluting a legacy. There might need to be a little bit more context to it, because keep in mind, maybe there is a possibility that Pixar or Disney, that they did talk to the estate of Don Rickles to see if it would actually be cool. Because if they would keep doing something like this, then like first and foremost, like they would have to go and discuss with the estate in order to be respectful. And like knowing how Disney can be, especially with creative decisions like this, like they would still always be in touch with those estates no matter what, like how Robin Williams came back for Once Upon a Studio. So in that regards, like I understand where it seems disrespectful at first to not use archival recordings of Don Rickles, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised if they did talk to the Don Rickles estate to see if it would be okay to have Jeff Bergman voice Mr. Potato Head. So I just want to go and provide some context on that. Let's see. Did I make a mistake here? Some people have mentioned it's Toy Story 4 or something. I don't know. Maybe I have. So I do apologize if that is a mistake there. Let's see now. As Mr. Potato Head said, it's nice to see them arguing again. While I'm one of the few who enjoyed Toy Story 4, I will admit that the fifth film was really pushing it, even with Stanton returning to the director's chair. But after seeing the trailer, while I'm still cautious as it is a trailer, it does leave me with a little more hope that it could turn out as another classic. Cross fingers. Also, the animation embodies imagination scene might be our tease for Gato's art style, so consider me sold on that. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I do see apparently like this scene in particular is already building up hype for Gato. It's kind of ironic. Like I feel like, you know, it's that little imagination scene is going to do like what that post-credit Elio scene has done for Hoppers. It's just basically hyping up for the next Pixar feature. So, I mean, hey, as long as it works, am I right? All right. Anyways, I'm iffy for it, partly because while it's cool to see Woody and the gang again, I feel like this would undermine the idea of Jessie as the main lead. And it feels like we have no faith in the female lead, so here's our nostalgic characters. Also, while seeing the toys fighting iPad is an interesting idea, I feel like it's going to enforce the cringeworthy message of technology is bad. Like, it's one thing to call out AI, but it's another thing to say that we should get rid of technology altogether. Honestly, in that factor, I do understand the concern, but that's going to be more of a factor that we'll have to wait and see. Maybe Pixar will have a little bit more of an interesting twist to it. Maybe the filmmakers will find a way to update that message where it's not necessarily as black and white in the same way that the Mitchells versus the Machines would go and portray it. But again, we'll see with how it goes. Like, I understand if it seems black and white right now, but let's wait until when the actual movie comes out, and maybe it'll turn out to be a little bit more thought-provoking, or maybe it's just going to be that. Maybe it'll be black and white. But again, we'll just wait and see. All right, I think I have time for one more comment to go and check out here. Or maybe two. But anyways, let's see. This trailer was so much better. I think the teaser is perfectly fine, but this one perfectly explains what we have in the store coming up. I love that it heavily focuses on Jessie and her abandonment issues she still has, and Woody coming back to help the toys again, along with the new poncho and bald. So yeah, I think we're going to have a phenomenal 40th anniversary for Pixar, and Andrew Stanton is the best. All right. Let's see now. Now this is no, I didn't read this. Now this is what I'm talking about. I'm a huge fan of the Toy Story movies, including the fourth movie, and this trailer really impressed me. I really like the idea of toys versus tech. I'm glad they showed how Woody came back. I'm glad Jessie is getting a big role, and the animation is beautiful. So I'm optimistic about this, and if it plays its cards right, it could be solid, and I think it could be $1 billion hit. I mean, honestly, with the direction that this is going, I think it's safe to say that, yeah, it's going to make $1 billion no matter what. But is the movie going to be great? Well, if this trailer is any indication, we could be in for something amazing. So with that said, if you are excited to go and check out Toy Story 4, then keep in mind that the movie shall be coming out on June 19th in theaters. And with that said, we're going to go on to our next break. And when we return, this is actually going to be a bit of a last minute addition. But before I go into that story, there is something that happened during the weekend that is worth talking about, at least to just get that out of the way. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back. Now, before I get into the next story, I do want to address something that did happen during the weekend, and technically, it would have been one of the main stories to go and discuss on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And that is specifically regarding the Annie Awards. So for those of you who don't know, the Annie Awards happened during this weekend. And of course, to nobody's surprise, KPop Demon Hunters came out as the big winner. But specifically, however, it really came out as the big winner, where it managed to get a massive sweep to the point where all except for probably 2 categories in the animated feature categories, specifically, that it managed to go and win. And at that point, honestly, when I saw the results and stuff like that, and I know there have been like a few other winners, of course, like you got Arco winning for Best Independent Animated Feature. There was also The Bad Guys 2, in which it won for Best Storyboarding. And I mean, of course, you got like all the other television categories, including like you got Bob's Burgers that won for Best Voiceover for Tina, and also Pixar's Win or Lose winning 2 or 3 Annie Awards. But with that said, though, when it comes to discussing like with the movies and stuff like that, honestly, at this point, what else is there to go and say? Like, this is another major sweep that the Annie Awards has been doing, like, in the majority of the previous years that they have been going on recently. And at this point, I'm just tired. honestly, it's like, what's the point of me to go and continuously repeat the same rant again and again about these stupid sweeps that they would keep on doing that feel like they're just sorry, I'm tripping on my own words, but that they're delegitimize the Annie Awards in general. It's like, okay, you're giving like the grand majority to just one movie. What about like all the other features that they've done? Do they not deserve any recognition beyond a nomination? So in that regards, I know this is going to be heavily unorthodox for me, but I'm going to skip it this year. I'm going to skip talking about what happened at the Annie Awards, and I'm going to skip talking about like all the winners or whatever happened during the show. Because if the Annie Awards are not going to be taking themselves seriously, and they're going to act no differently than the cartoon community, just emphasizing their heavy bias, just representing only one movie as animation is cinema, then fine. I'm not going to be taking it seriously, and the Annie Awards just feel like just a complete nothing burger. They mean nothing. They represent nothing. They are a detriment to animation in general. So what's the point of giving them attention, and what's the point talking about it? So you know what? I'm just going to go and skip it. But with that said, however, this is nothing against K-pop Demon Hunters, of course. Like, it definitely deserves a good bunch of those awards, like especially with some of the animation categories. And for example, I'm personally very glad to see Amy Thompson winning Best Character Design. She absolutely does deserve it. And of course, to show you that this is nothing against K-pop Demon Hunters, what I have here is a little bit of a last-minute addition of a story, but this is still K-pop Demon Hunters related, because believe it or not, K-pop Demon Hunters is coming to Criterion. Now, there's not much to really go and report in terms of the specifics of this news, but the Criterion Collection has officially announced 2 brand new additions, and these are 2 very recent additions, which are, of course, K-pop Demon Hunters, as well as Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Now, we don't have a confirmation on when specifically they are going to go and release them. We don't know specifically like the release date or when the physical media are going to be coming out, but we do know that sometime this year, we are finally going to be getting physical versions of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein and K-pop Demon Hunters. Now, with that said, I might as well just go and briefly mention about Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, and I'll just say that thing was no surprise. I don't know if there's anybody who would be shocked to find out that Frankenstein is going to be coming out on the Criterion Collection, especially with how much Criterion absolutely adores Guillermo del Toro and has so far been putting a good amount of his filmography onto the collection and to sell it on Blu-ray, 4K, and on DVD. And even if this was released on Netflix, that's not going to stop the Criterion to go and add it. Considering that they did include Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, of course, they're also going to add his adaptation of Frankenstein as well. But when it comes to K-pop Demon Hunters, however, that one is a bit of a shock, actually. It's a bit of an unexpected twist because not only is it very rare for Criterion to even add a mainstream animated feature, let alone an animated feature in general, but especially for something like this, like something that comes from a mainstream animation studio, something that is really emphasized by its popularity, in which it was undeniably one of the biggest animated features from last year. This is actually a lot more of an unorthodox move from Criterion, let alone that if people would go and discuss about if K-pop Demon Hunters would deserve to have a spot in there. Like, I know that it definitely does have its fans, but then again, there are some people that would go and debate, like, you know, would K-pop Demon Hunters be seen as cinema in that way? Considering that Criterion is all about auteurism and promoting filmmakers like Wes Anderson or Guillermo del Toro and small indie filmmakers, like suddenly really making it big with some of their movies and stuff like that. Like, would K-pop Demon Hunters actually fit in that category in general? It does seem like a bit of an unusual addition and a bit of an unusual move, especially when, like, it's still new. Like, it hasn't been a year since K-pop Demon Hunters was actually released, and considering its legacy that it will become a franchise with sequels and stuff like that, we're not 100% sure, like, how the future is going to be with K-pop Demon Hunters. Now, some could go and argue that this is a similar move to what the Criterion did when they added Flow very quickly. But then again, with Flow, you can argue that, well, it shouldn't be that big of a surprise for Criterion to go and add that, considering that's a more artistic, indie animated feature. So of course it would get the attention of someone like Criterion that would go and promote artsy, independent animated films. But again, with K-pop Demon Hunters, it is the opposite of Flow. It's a mainstream, popular animated feature made by a major studio. So, oh, and by the way, I just got a new fish, so thank you very much, Omid. But with that said, why would they go and add something like K-pop Demon Hunters? Like, it is a little bit bizarre. But then, not long before starting this podcast, I actually noticed this post here, specifically from Lady Emily on Blue Sky, in which she actually raised a very good point about having K-pop Demon Hunters in the Criterion collection, where it doesn't matter about the movie itself. It doesn't matter if you think that it is a masterpiece or if you don't think it's all that great and stuff like that. She actually has a good argument that this is actually a win regardless of what you think about K-pop Demon Hunters, in which I'll go and read her post here on Blue Sky, in which she states, Criterion releasing K-pop Demon Hunters is a net benefit for everyone. Those who like the movie will get a really good home media release of it. Those who don't care about the movie will benefit from Criterion having a certified moneymaker that can use to help fund more obscure niche releases. She then added by saying, I remember the discourse around WALL-E being added to Criterion Collection, since it was a mainstream Disney film that already had a 4K release. But I consistently see that film in people's Criterion Hall posts. I've seen it on shelves at Best Buy and Walmart. People buy releases like this. There is also the fact that Criterion is one of the labels that streaming companies like Netflix have consistently been willing to work with in order to make home releases for previously stream-only content, which is also good. It's good when these things aren't stuck on streaming forever. So honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that post that Lady Emily did is honestly the reason why I'm actually talking about this. The reason why I made that last minute switch to go and discuss about this. And believe it or not, no, I've ultimately decided not to go and talk about the Annie Awards after that whole K-pop sweep. Previously, I was thinking about talking about that news in which Sony Pictures Animation is getting ready to go and do a Venom movie with the directors of Final Destination Bloodline attached to it. I was ready to go and talk about that, but then I saw Lady Emily's post about it, and then I thought to myself, you know what? She does raise a good point, and I think it would be very interesting to go further into this discussion. And honestly, yes, it does make a lot of sense why it is a benefit for everyone, regardless of your opinion about K-pop Demon Hunters. And it's not necessarily, like, in a way, it's not necessarily about K-pop Demon Hunters, but it's more about helping out Criterion in order to go and actually boost its business. Because yes, as she stated, on one hand, those people who do love the movie, they are finally getting a whole media release. But not just that, however, excuse me for a sec. Sorry, I just felt that cough coming. But anyways, as I was saying, like, yes, at long last, K-pop Demon Hunters is finally going to be getting a physical release. But it's not just that, however, but also it's going to be getting a great release. Criterion is known for making high quality physical media, not just offering a great looking picture, not just showing the movie in just seeing it in the best way that you can in physical media, but also just jam-packed with so many bonus features, and even having a little booklet that can provide like a little essay about the movie itself. So you're not just going to go and get a great experience, you're going to get the ultimate experience, one that could easily overshadow the Blu-ray releases of films like The Mitchells vs. the Machines and Vivo. So you're definitely getting a top quality Blu-ray release right there. So for K-pop Demon Hunters fans, this is definitely a dream come true. Not to mention that I gotta say there is a little bit of that shock factor that this is even happening, because there was a part of me that was thinking that maybe K-pop Demon Hunters would never get a physical media release, because because right now it feels way too big to have a physical media release, considering that if people would own a Blu-ray or DVD of K-pop Demon Hunters, then that would be one less reason for people to go and keep their Netflix subscription. So I thought it would just be sealed off from that, but no, it looks like Criterion is interested in having it. So yeah, but anyways, there is that benefit for K-pop Demon Hunters fans to actually own that. But for those people who are not fans of K-pop Demon Hunters, for those who find that maybe it's overrated, that, you know, they wouldn't consider K-pop Demon Hunters the best animated movie of the year and all that kind of stuff, there's still a positive way to look at it, where this is actually a benefit for Criterion, because this is actually great for their business. Now, I don't know if you have noticed, but with the new releases every month, like with all the new additions that Criterion would be doing again and again, they make sure to always include at least one mainstream movie into their collection. That, you know, with every indie feature that, or every classic film that they would go release, they would also go and include a big name attached to it. Like in recent years, they've also included films such as Pee-wee's Big Adventure or The Princess Bride, for example. Like they would, you know, they would slowly but surely add in some mainstream releases in order to be part of their collection and in order to gather some attention. But with a name like K-pop Demon Hunters, you know that's gonna sell. You know that there are going to be people, parents especially, who have kids who are crazy for K-pop Demon Hunters. They are easily going to go and eat that up, especially for their kid. You know that's going to sell, and you know that it's going to be a big boost for the business of Criterion, which will help them go and further go and showcase any of these small creators who would make their own indie films, and it would give them a bit of a spotlight as well. You know, like for people that they would get K-pop Demon Hunters, suddenly they'll also be shopping for other stuff in Criterion, and they'll see some other interesting movies to go and add to their collection, where the big spotlight of having K-pop Demon Hunters will also provide a spotlight for smaller creators and to give a better business for Criterion to do more of what they would go and do. And as she stated, it's pretty similar to what happened with WALL-E. Like, yeah, some people, maybe they'll go and debate if WALL-E deserves to be part of that Criterion collection. But then again, it has managed to work business-wise, where it has gathered, it has gathered attention to buy Criterion Blu-rays and DVDs, and many people have that in their collection. And I can speak this personally, considering that I have also purchased the Criterion version of WALL-E, even though I already own a Blu-ray version, or the regular Blu-ray version of WALL-E. I technically don't need it, but I feel like it's a great addition to my physical media collection. So in that regards, it's kind of the same case with K-pop Demon Hunters, where that feel like for people not interested in it, then they will know that it's going to be good for Criterion. So overall, it's very fascinating to see K-pop Demon Hunters being added to the collection, because I understand if it is heavily debatable if it deserves to be part of Criterion. And I mean, I understand it. Even for me, like, I do think the movie is good, but the hype of it might feel a little bit too much at times. And yeah, like, considering, like, to call this like art or a masterpiece or cinema in the levels of being added to the Criterion collection, even I'll admit that might be a little bit debatable, but in the grand scheme of things, it feels like it makes perfect sense. Like, not just for the fans to give them like the ultimate physical media experience of the movie, but also for the business of Criterion in order to get in order to get these types of mainstream movies, in order to get more attention, not just for their business, but also get attention for smaller movies as well. And this is not to mention the factor that we are talking about a Netflix movie. This is debatably the only opportunity that K-pop Demon Hunters really has in terms of being added to a physical media in general. Because we have been seeing lately the consequences of being streaming exclusive. Because it doesn't matter how beloved you may be. It doesn't matter how popular you were once upon a time. There will come a moment where eventually you're just going to be out of the streaming service and there's literally going to be nowhere for you to go and watch other than maybe piracy. So in that regards, I mean, like, this is especially the case with what we have recently seen with the recent She-Ra series. So in that case, at least it gives K-pop Demon Hunters an option where even if it's like 10, 20 years time, maybe there will come a day where Netflix is no longer going to be interested in hosting K-pop Demon Hunters and they're just going to take that away from their streaming platform. At least there's going to be another option for people to go and check out the movie outside of piracy. So in that regards, it's interesting, but honestly, the more I think about it, the more I understand the arguments that, no, you know what? Maybe this is going to be good. Like, rather if you see this as good for K-pop, or rather if you see this as good for Criterion, there is some good all around. And with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, what do you all think of K-pop Demon Hunters being added to the Criterion collection? Are you guys excited for it? Are you guys going to go and purchase it? Or do you feel like maybe it shouldn't be added? You know what? How about we also go and make a poll also? I think I forgot to mention about the last poll, by the way, which I didn't see the results of it. I am sorry. But now I want to go and ask you all if I can go and actually create a poll here. So, actually, I'll go and ask this. Do you think K-pop Demon Hunters should be in the Criterion collection? So I'll go and write down. And by the way, apparently someone mentioned that apparently in the last poll related to if you're going to go and watch Toy Story 5, 94% of you actually said yes. So at least that's at least we got the results on that. So anyways, I'll just put in yes and no onto this, and let's see what the chat wall has to say over here. All right, so there's a good chance that K-pop Demon Hunters on Blu-ray could easily sell out because of the film's popularity. Should that be the case, this idea could convince either Sony or Netflix to release K-pop Demon Hunters in regular mass markets and save physical media. Also, to answer your earlier question, I was the one who created your poll in the last story. Well, that actually explains it. I didn't know mods also have that power. All right. Anyways, let's see what other comments do we have here. Let's see. Oh, yes. Yes, Matt, I absolutely agree about what happened at the Annies. And this is coming from a guy that was at the event. But this Criterion Collection news, along with Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein being announced, was the best thing to happen today. I'm definitely pre-ordering this ASAP since I have a few films in my collection. It's kind of funny that this film will be next to Salo or The 120 Days of Sodom, and blue is the warmest color. Yeah, the special features will be beautiful. Oh yeah, if anything, honestly, I feel like the bonus features are going to be quite the star in this. I don't know what either Sony or Netflix or whatever will have in store for it, but man, there's a high bar that they gotta go and cross in order to make sure that the bonus features here are gonna be absolutely worth it. Let's see what else we got. All right. I don't know how to feel about this. Like, on one hand, it's getting a physical release, which is great for collectors and gives Criterion more attention for its collection. But on the other hand, no offense to the team, but there's like 10 other animated films I feel should have been added before the list. Like, where does the line for being culturally significant end if this is added, but not a Ghibli or DreamWorks film? Congrats to the team, of course, but I don't know, man. I just have mixed feelings about this. Yeah, and I mean, as someone who did like K-pop Demon Hunters but don't think it's great, in fact, like, hot take, I do find that like it's a little bit overrated with the massive popularity that it has. But still, though, like, I understand the arguments if, like, as a movie in itself, should it be added into the Criterion Collection? Because, like, even for me, I could think of like literally dozens of films that should be included before K-pop Demon Hunters. But then again, I also do understand the argument that it's more for the business of Criterion, more so than what could be considered quote unquote cinema here, because this is going to sell. This is going to give attention to the Criterion name. I mean, even to this day, like when I go into the mall and stuff like that, like actually just yesterday, like I was at the mall and there was a little kid just talking about K-pop Demon Hunters to his dad after they walked out, and the little girl has like a little derpy Funko Pop in her hands. So, those kids are really going to eat up that Blu-ray. So again, like if you're not that happy about K-pop Demon Hunters being added to the Criterion Collection, I get it. But then again, think of the good that it's going to do for Criterion. So that's basically the thing I want to emphasize. And we do have the results here, and the majority of you have actually said yes. Specifically, 83% have voted that yes, it is a good thing that K-pop Demon Hunters is added to the Criterion Collection, or that it deserves it, while 14% of you have actually said no. So quite interesting results there. All right, so let's see here. For me, while I do think K-pop Demon Hunters is good, but not an amazing movie per se, it's a bit shocking that this is being added to the Criterion Collection, especially where this is the first Sony Pictures animation film to be released on Criterion before Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but also this could mean we could get more streaming exclusive animated films getting a Criterion release, such as Klaus, Nimona, and more. You know what? That actually is an amazing point. That is also a great benefit to the idea of K-pop Demon Hunters being added to Criterion, because this could possibly lead to more Netflix exclusive animated features where they could also be added to the Criterion Collection as well. And I mean, I agree. I can think of many other animated films, even Netflix exclusive animated movies that should be added to the Criterion before K-pop Demon Hunters. But if this could go well, maybe we will see more of those that are deserving that can be included. Maybe one day we will see that physical release of films like Klaus or Nimona, or maybe even Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. The possibilities are endless here. So again, like this could, like, think of the prospects of what could lead to it. All right, I'll go and read one more comment before we continue. Let's see. This is really exciting. I really enjoy K-pop Demon Hunters, and the fact that it's getting a physical release from Criterion is a massive win, especially with how huge the movie has become. Especially now the movie won't be limited to just being released on Netflix, so this is very exciting. This honestly makes me hope in the future we could see Nimona get a Criterion release, or get a physical release at least. Yeah, you know, honestly, this is the one benefit. I think this is the one thing I'm actually excited about all this, is that the irony is that for me, like, one of my dream Blu-ray releases is Nimona. I love that movie. It's so far one of my favorite animated films of this decade. And if this can ultimately lead to having that happen, then you know what? So be it. The funny thing is that I'm more excited of the prospects of Nimona possibly getting a Blu-ray release because of K-pop Demon Hunters coming to Criterion, more so than I am of K-pop Demon Hunters coming to the Criterion collection. All right, so with that said, we're gonna go and take another break. And when we do come back, speaking of Netflix, by the way, there is an announcement that Netflix has made that I'm honestly very excited about, and I can't wait for you all to go and check out what they have in store, or what they have acquired for this year. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back. Now, on our next story, this is going to be something that's a little bit similar to the last episode when I talked about Allegro Non Troppo. And for its 50th anniversary, the North American film rights have gotten acquired by G Kids, which will bring the possible prospects that we're going to get a physical or new restoration with a great physical media release on Blu-ray of Allegro Non Troppo. So that is something that I feel absolutely excited about, not only because of that physical media release, but on top of that, it will give people more chances to go and actually check the movie out, because I think that movie is absolutely fantastic and more people deserve to go and see it. And in this case here, it's very similar, not entirely similar, because this is just going to be coming to streaming only. But still, though, it is exciting. It is exciting to think about the prospects that more people are going to check this movie out. I was able to go and see it last summer, and maybe this year you'll have your chance to go and check it out. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about Am Frankelda. Yes, Netflix has officially announced that they have gotten the global distribution rights to Am Frankelda, which is known to be Mexico's first stop-motion animated feature. Now, for those of you who don't know, like this article here from The Hollywood Reporter actually does provide a pretty good example, or does give you a good idea of what this movie is going to be about, along with its background as well, considering that this is brought to us by the Ambriz brothers, specifically from Arturo and Roy Ambriz. And on top of that, This is a movie in which Guillermo del Toro himself actually mentored the brothers when making this movie. So he was guiding them along the way and be a bit of like a creative consultant to make sure that this movie comes out right. In fact, it even says right over here, we got a quote from Guillermo del Toro in which he says, "Frankelda is a landmark in Mexican stop motion animation and a true triumph of vision, tenacity, and love for the craft." So you know how much of an animation lover Guillermo del Toro is, so he wanted to make sure that I Am Frankelda came out as the best that it could possibly be. Now, when it comes to the movie itself, of course, this is a feature prequel to the series Frankelda and the Book of Spooks, which that I believe came out on HBO Max as a miniseries. But now we got a feature film that pretty much goes into the background and talk about like how everything was developed and how everything came to be that ultimately led us to that series. To go and read you from my source here on The Hollywood Reporter to describe what this is about. Hold on. It says here, developed by the Ambrose brothers at their Mexico City-based studio Cinema Fantasma, I Am Frankelda is set in 19th century Mexico and centers on Frankelda, a gifted writer whose dark tales are ignored and dismissed. Forced to suppress her voice, she refused to give up, even as many tried to silence her. But when she is thrust into her subconscious, the very monsters she created come to life. Guided by her Naval, a tormented prince trapped between dreams and nightmares, she must restore balance between fiction and reality before both realms collapse. Meanwhile, the sinister writer Procustes and his conspirators plot to seize control. As Frankelda and her Naval grow together, their bond becomes both a strength and a curse. To rewrite her fate, she must confront a love that defies existence and reclaim her power as a storyteller before dark forces consume her imagination and reveal horrors beyond her creation. A synopsis from the film's producer reads. Now, it is worth mentioning, by the way, that we do not have a confirmation as to when the movie is specifically going to be released on Netflix. And also, we do not have a confirmation if an English dub is also going to be provided, because so far there's only a Spanish dub that has been released of it. But what we do know is that I Am Frankelda is going to be coming out later this year on Netflix all around the world. And I just got to say that I've already seen I Am Frankelda, as I mentioned before, but specifically, I was lucky enough to go and see it at the Fantasia Film Festival, in which that was one of the features that was presented. And funny enough, the Ambrose brothers, along with one of the producers, I believe, was actually there in attendance, like to go and talk a little bit about the movie, to have a bit of a Q&A. And yeah, like it was a really nice time. And on top of that, I technically got to go and actually meet the stars, in which I actually went and like just a few blocks away from the cinema that they screened it in, there was a little museum that actually hosted some of the stop motion puppets that was actually featured in I Am Frankelda. None of like the massive ones, of course, because there were actually some huge stop motion puppets used, like almost like, you know, like even bigger than the people who would go and animate them. But there was still like a decent amount that were actually there. Like they do have puppets of like Frankelda, her Naval, his parents, the villain, whom I just forgot his name, but Procustes. Like they got, you know, they got like some of those puppets, and they're honestly very impressive. And when it comes to the movie itself, yeah, I really enjoyed that feature. I really liked I Am Frankelda. In fact, you probably have seen recently that I actually included I Am Frankelda among my top 5 animated features of 2025. I think it's honestly one of the best ones out there, alongside Little Amelie, Zootopia 2, Noja 2, and even, well, technically, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. I think it really is that great. Yes, maybe I do have a little bit of my personal criticisms with it, but they are still minor compared to the quality that is presented in the feature. It is still a wonderful animated film that they have presented. And now we got the news that Netflix is going to be distributing this globally. That personally has me very excited. Like, again, it's very similar to how I felt with Allegro Non Troppo with G Kids getting the North American distribution rights. Like, now that'll give an opportunity for more people to go and check out that film, because I personally think it's great. I love it. It's like one of the many reasons why I love animation, and it's the same thing with I Am Frankelda. I really enjoy the film. And this is a wonderful opportunity for people to go and actually check it out. Because prior to this, like, yeah, it had a few festival runs, but the widest release that it really got was just exclusively in Mexico, where back in October, they were able to go and release the film during that month there. And that was pretty much it in terms of like the public having a chance to go and see it. But now, like, the whole world can actually go and see the feature and just see like this beautiful macabre world that they have created. Like, for those of you who are fans of Guillermo del Toro, you are definitely going to go and enjoy I Am Frankelda, because you could see the inspiration from him like really resonate in here, and a little bit of that Pan's Labyrinth style familiarity and that Pan's Labyrinth style fantasy that is incorporated in this. And not to mention, considering that this movie is also a musical, like, even when it's just in Spanish, the songs are phenomenal. They are absolutely beautiful. And I'm just going to go and say right now, there is one musical number that is an absolute show stealer. Like, easily, like, even when I watched it during the festival, like, the true standout moment, like the part where like I don't know if it got like a standing ovation, but my God, people were cheering hard after that musical number. It was this ultimate operatic number that lasted for like 6 to 7 minutes, and it features all the characters. I'm not going to spoil it. I think you can go and actually find it online. I think it is on YouTube, because I was able to go and use that song in the background for the top 5 best and worst animated films of 2025. But that musical number was absolutely epic. And I know I did put out a hot take on Blue Sky, where I did mention that it would, like, this number honestly makes K-pop's Golden look forgettable. Like, it is that good. Like, oh my God, like, it's rare. Like, it really is. Like, I think out of all the musical numbers that I've seen last year, especially from an animated film, that was the one that seriously blew me away on it. So especially, I am excited for you all to go and, like, for you to actually check that out. I'd even go as far and say that, honestly, like, speaking of K-pop Demon Hunters, if you like that film, you're also going to love this as well, because on top of those musical numbers, you also get a complex romance story that's a little bit similar to Rumi and Genu, especially with Frankelda and Hernaval, and you see their relationship together, how, like, you know, it's just a complex love story where there are times when they do love each other, but then at the same time, they also resent each other, or like Frankelda especially would have like grudges against Hernaval and stuff like that. So yeah, like, I honestly, like, I like, even when I saw it, it has the formula of an animated film that can have a massive cult following. It, like when you're gonna watch it, I think there's a very strong chance you're gonna love it. So honestly, I'm very excited to see this come out on Netflix. And by the way, I've had some people ask me this, so I might as well go and answer this right now. I've had people ask me that when it does get a release on Netflix, will I go and put out a full review of the picture? Because yes, even though I did like a quick short review during last summer after I saw the film, but am I going to go and do like a straight up AniMat's reviews of it? And in that regard, I'm going to say, yes, I am. I might as well, honestly, I might as well go and give it the full review. Like, and I'm just saying, this doesn't just apply to Am Frankelda, but also with any of the animated features that I've just done like a quick little short vertical screen review of. Like they'll have their chance of possibly getting, you know, they'll probably have their chance one day where I'm going to go and do a full review. Like, sure, like I did like a quick short review of Arco, for example. Like I did like a quick short one. That doesn't mean that in the future I won't go and do like a full review of it. So just thought I would go and let you know on that, where yes, a review of I Am Frankelda will be coming not long after the release of the Netflix movie. So just thought I'd let you know on that. All right, so now with that said, I like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to go and ask you all, what do you all think of I Am Frankelda coming out on Netflix? Are you guys excited to go and check this out? Do you have any additional questions you would like to know about I Am Frankelda? Just let me know what you all think. All right, so let's see. I Am Frankelda, huh? Sounds like I Am Frankenstein or I Am Frankenstein. With all jokes aside, I am pretty interested in watching this, and it is pretty amazing that Mexico has made a stop-motion animated film. Fun fact, the movie is actually based on a Mexican stop-motion series called Los Sustos Ocultos de Frankelda, or in English is Frankelda the Book of Spooks. So basically, this is an adaptation of that animated series. So overall, I'm pretty curious to watch this on Netflix. Well, yeah, it's just like what I said at the beginning, actually. This is basically taking that Frankelda Book of Spooks and just adapting to it. This is pretty much the ultimate prequel that has ultimately led to that series. So just to go and give you some context on that. Let's see now. Well, I haven't seen I Am Frankelda myself, like a lot of people. In fact, I didn't know it existed until I watched your top 5 best and worst of 2025 video. But this is great, considering with how good I've heard it is. It will give more people the opportunity to watch it, so I'm definitely on board with this. Definitely, man, definitely. All right, but from there, let's see. Any other comments? Just want to go and make sure. I have Netflix, but I've heard about this movie since I've lived in Mexico last year, but I am curious and excited about that movie since I am a huge animation fan. All right, that's fair. So, all right, in that case, like, I understand if nobody has much of a comment to go and say on this, but, oh, hold on, we do have another one. They're just slowly but surely popping in. I really don't have much to say about this movie. I barely knew much about it when you mentioned in your top 5 best films, but what you stated really sounds intriguing to watch, almost like a Mexican version of a Henry Selick movie. I will give it a chance and maybe decide how it is as a movie. Not a lot of people said a lot about it, but I am excited. All right, so I think with that said, though, since not many people may have a comment on it, and I don't blame you since many of you have not actually seen it, but hopefully you will so in the future when Netflix will be releasing I Am Frankelda on Netflix later this year. But with that said, we're going to go on to one more break, and when we do come back, we're going to go and have a discussion about a serious controversy that has occurred, and this is unfortunately another chapter on the serious problems with the cartoon community, so stay tuned for that. All right, so after going through this whole episode, it is now time that we are about to get into the grand finale! finale. And on this grand finale, we are going to be discussing about one of the crazy things that has happened during the weekend, but specifically with what happened online amongst animation fans. Because again, I know there's been plenty of controversies that have occurred, especially with what happened during the BAFTAs and stuff like that. But I want to go and put my focus onto what happened online, specifically with one particular indie animation show and its creator. Because so far, it looks like it has unfortunately revealed a dark truth about the cartoon community, something that they have been saying for quite some time, and yet it doesn't actually feel true, in which their actions very much contradict their own words. Because we've heard of this all the time, that animation fans love indie animation, that animation fans must go and support indie animation at all costs, especially when it feels like the medium is in peril, the medium is in danger. And now we gotta go and look at indie animation to go and save the day and put these creators on a high pedestal because we know they'll make something better than whatever Disney or Illumination would go and put out. But the fact is, even if we keep hearing this again and again, especially from like even the bigger cartoon reviewers out there, like you would hear people like Saberspark or Shafrillas or the Roundtable would go and often discuss about this, it doesn't really sound true that animation fans or the cartoon community actually cares much about indie animation, or especially that they care about indie animators. Because what happened during the weekend, it feels like they don't at all. So with that said, let's discuss about what happened to Gooseworx. Now, as you guys know, Gooseworx is the creator of the Amazing Digital Circus. But recently, it looks like Gooseworx has had enough with the fan base to the point where she ultimately deleted her Reddit account after being massively harassed. And not just being harassed on Reddit, but also on Twitter as well. Because of course, if there's going to be harassment online, then Twitter has to be involved in some form of capacity. Ironically, there is a Reddit post here specifically from the subreddit YouTube Drama that does explain the details as to what happened. So I'll just go and read you from my source here on Reddit, in which it says here, recently, the Amazing Digital Circus fandom has become increasingly toxic. Gooseworx commented on Reddit, "What if the show focused on someone too stubborn to give up, on someone too stubborn to be saved?" It is also revealed in a live stream after episode 7, she confirmed that Pomni and Jax are the main characters and is shocked fans are furious at her focusing on Jax. This has led to many fans of the other characters getting furious and even harassing Goose to the point where she just deleted her Reddit account after trying to reassure them that other characters like Ragatha would still get focus in the final 2 episodes, as well as still harassing her on Twitter. I find it insane. This is Gooseworx's story, and it's not even over yet. It's also been clear that Jax would be a major character, and he's the biggest opposition to the main message of the story, that there's meaning to be found in a stagnant life. I understand being upset your favorite character didn't get as much screen time as you'd wanted, but don't harass the creator. Fan fiction exists for a reason. So that's pretty much the main thing that is being highlighted, is that Gooseworx got massively harassed over the fact that she decided to have Pomni and Jax, the main characters of the series, in which it is already established that they are the main characters, that in the next episodes, they will be the main characters. And apparently people got so upset to the point that they felt like they had to attack Gooseworx, and she ultimately had to retaliate by deleting her Reddit account. Even when she tries to go and reason with them, it's just not enough, and she had to go and bail out her account entirely. Now, it is also worth noting, by the way, that recently Glitch Productions, the studio behind the Amazing Digital Circus, did put out a message in regards to what happened. This is a message they put out specifically on Twitter, and it states right over here, "Hey y'all, we've seen some of the recent posts online surrounding Digital Circus and its community and wanted to take a moment to address it. Right now, there's a lot of noise online, and we know it can be exhausting and really makes something you enjoy feel darker than it really is. However, when we think of our fans, we think of the artists pouring their hearts into every piece of fan art, the cosplayers bringing these characters to life in ways that genuinely move us, the people who show up to every discussion with thoughtfulness and heart, and the ones who have built something genuinely special here. You are what this community is really about. The majority of this fandom is made up of people just like you. We've had the privilege of meeting many of you at conventions and across social media, and what we found is a fandom full of kind, creative, and passionate people who genuinely care about the stories we tell. This is what truly defines this fandom. We've also seen the enormous amount of love and support from many of you for Goose since this has unfolded, and it's meant the world for her and us. She feels really supported. What you've all built around this show, the friendships, the art, and conversations is all real, and that's what really matters. Take a moment and be kind to yourselves and each other. This community means something special to us, and we love you all, from the Glitch team." And honestly, I gotta say, as I was reading this, the more I look into it, the more, I'm not gonna lie, this doesn't sound like a good way to go and address this. This sounds a little bit more like PR control in order to save the image of the Amazing Digital Circus than to actually go and address the toxicity. That this feels like a message in which they care more about their reputation and the reputation of the fandom more so than actually calling out the actual problem. So honestly, in that regards, yeah, not the best word to put out there, Glitch. Honestly, you need to do better. And like, yeah, sure, I do believe that your fans are great and the majority of them are nice and good people, but that still doesn't change that there are still some bad ones out there that let this crap happen. So I'm just saying, yeah, honestly, this is a bad move on Glitch, at least in my opinion, in that regard. Also, I do want to go and also address that there is a little bit of misinformation that has been spread around, in which there's a social media account you may have seen from Toon Hive, in which they, when they were spreading the news about what happened to Gooseworx and the whole controversy with the Amazing Digital Circus, they went and put out a message in which they kept sharing a post that was from Gooseworx, in which she would go and say, "Oh, I wouldn't touch Digital Circus with a 10-foot pole after making the show, once I'm done," and stuff like that. But in reality, that is actually something that is completely taken out of context. And if I may go just on a quick side rant here, this is why I honestly do not like any of these types of accounts. Like these accounts that are meant to be like, oh, we're here to go and quickly spread animation news so that you would be on the know and stuff like that. Honestly, like those types of accounts, I find them to be bullcrap. I find them to be manipulative. And I honestly find that they're more like grifters than they are actual animation journalists. And this doesn't just limit to Toon Hive either. Honestly, I would go and categorize them on honestly, I would categorize it with all of them. Not just Toon Hive, but also I would say the same thing with Cartoon Base, since they have had a bit of controversy also. There is also Cartoon Base, Toon Hive. The Rise and Fall of Nickelodeon is another really cringy one. And even Veilski Bum as well. Like, I know the dude, like, nothing against him personally, but I feel like he's doing exactly what Cartoon Hive and Cartoon Base would do, but just in video form. And not to mention also when it comes to the like even the more broader ones, stuff like Discussing Film or Culture Crave, they're all, you know, they also feel like exploitative grifters as well, who sensationalize the news in order to go and grab engagement and in order to get attention. Like all of those accounts feel like they're made more for the engagement more so than to go and share proper information for people. For me, honestly, I don't feel like they are proper sources, and they all deserve to be blocked more so than to have attention. But anyways, that's just my little side rant on those stupid accounts there. But with that said, I want to go back into the main issue in particular, and that is animation fans harassing you know, they would go out of their way to go and harass an indie animator because of like petty fan, you know, like just petty creative decisions. Like just because they don't agree with the direction that it is going, and then they would go and have this type of reaction right here. Honestly, that is just that's just wrong. And honestly, I feel like it's something that we should learn not to have that kind of behavior, regardless of whoever it may be. It's just bad in general to go and harass it. You would think that people would learn from Mr. Enter's mistakes over a decade ago with the way that he would go and treat like SpongeBob and Teen Titans Go and the people behind them and stuff like that. You would think that they would learn their lesson. But no, honestly, even if Mr. Enter like has significantly grown since then, the cartoon community, however, certainly has not. And they are still expressing that harassment to this day. And it's honestly ridiculous. And this is what really highlights an example as to why they do not, pardon my language, but they don't give a shit about indie animation, and they especially do not care about indie animators. In fact, this is exactly why I feel like, honestly, the cartoon community hates indie animators more so than they do with animators in mainstream studios. Because the thing is, when you look at an animator in a mainstream studio, they got a shield that prevents them from getting that type of harassment to go directly towards them. And that is the fact that they work under a major corporation, and that they are those executives that would often go and take the blame. Like, at least they got that going for them. Now, this is not to say that they never get harassed whatsoever, because we've seen from time to time animators and filmmakers getting constantly harassed by the animation fandom because of like whatever stupid petty reasons that it may be. Like we just saw last year how the cartoon community actually does not care about Sony Pictures Animation, because regardless of how much they claim they love K-pop Demon Hunters, it certainly didn't stop them from harassing and attacking any animator who has openly expressed that they have worked on Fixed. So it does. So not to say that it doesn't happen that the cartoon community still harasses any of the any animator from a mainstream studio, but generally the blame would be shifted towards the companies and the executives. Like for example, like any animator who works at like Disney or Pixar, for example. Whenever you have the cartoon community that absolutely despises a movie that they would go create, rather it be something like Lightyear or Wish or Moana 2 or Elio, for example, their anger would be directly towards the Walt Disney Company and executives like Bob Iger, instead of any of the creative people at those studios, like the directors, the animators, the writers, and stuff like that. But when it comes to indie creators, on the other hand, They do not have that luxury of having someone higher than them. They don't have a Bob Iger or a David Zaslav or a David Ellison or a Ted Sarandos or anyone like that. Like, they're technically on the top of their own creative food chain. Like, they are the person behind that particular indie creation. And in that regards, whenever the cartoon community unleashes their toxicity, they unfortunately have to get the massive bulk of it. They would end up getting all the harassment from the community just because of their little petty decisions. Again, there's no executive and there's no company that they can go and target. So the only one that is left is just the creator. And that's exactly why they just don't have any cares for the people behind any of those cartoons in general. It's pretty much one of the main issues of the cartoon community, in which they value the product itself more so than they do than the people behind them. Because the people who would go and make these cartoons, regardless if they're mainstream or they're independent, that is completely meaningless. For them, what they care a lot more is just the product. And if ever there is some kind of like creative conflict, or if it goes into a direction that they don't necessarily like, then they're just going to go and straight up attack the creators. Like, if anything, creators are just there, and like the people behind them, they're just an excuse to go to blame if the product that they would go and create doesn't necessarily go and meet their standard. And that's why, again and again, we have been seeing this unfortunate story be unfold. And I can guarantee you that Gooseworx is not the only one who faces that type of problem. We all know Vibsy Pop is a very prominent example of someone who is constantly getting so much hate and harassment because of her works like Has Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss. Now, I have all the respect for Vivian Madrano, but honestly, the toxicity that surrounds these shows is honestly why I had to go and step back, and why I'm personally hesitant to even touch upon those series in particular. Like, it's like how people are just unsure to go and check out The Mandalorian and Grogu because of the toxicity of the Star Wars fandom. I honestly personally feel the same way about Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel. It's mainly because of the toxicity with the entire discourse. You know that it has gotten so bad where I'm a lot more comfortable openly discussing about politics than I am discussing about Has Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss. And again, this is nothing against the series themselves. It is nothing against Vivian herself. In fact, like I said, I have all the respect and admiration for her, and I do applaud her for the great success that she has been having. But it's just the online discussions from both the haters, and I'll even say some of the fans as well, because their track record isn't great. Like, honestly, it's just been way too much. So yes, but the point is that I do agree, like, the haters can be so much worse than the people who do love the show. And in the case of Vivian Madrano, she's another indie creator who's been getting a lot of hate and harassment. And even to this day, it is still going on. And then at the same time, like, you also got like other indie creators. I'm sure they could go and share their stories about the harassment that they would get from fans just because of creative decisions, just because fans have that stupid mentality of believing that, oh, well, I know more about this show than you do, which is honestly ridiculous. But even like another prominent example is actually with a recent one is the Knights of Guinevere, where fans got massively upset and they attacked Dana Terrence because of the idea that one of the main characters, I believe Frankie, turns out not to be trans, and that she actually confirmed, no, Frankie is actually cis. And that upset many people and caused quite a stir with that show in particular. And honestly, I could go on, and like, this is just like with the prominent indie examples. Like, this doesn't even count like with any of the smaller creators who would go through like many of the same stories. But again, this pretty much highlights one of the many problems and one of the many examples of what is wrong with the cartoon community right now. Like, one of the biggest issues that is going on with the community, and really how this mentality of valuing the product over the people behind them has gone really problematic. And especially with the fandom-like entitlement, where they think that they think that they deserve to have more creative control than the people behind the scenes, is honestly ridiculous. And we've seen examples again and again of how things are just going way too far. Now, I do want to clarify, but like, I just want to say, yes, it is true that this does not reflect on literally everyone in the cartoon community. And this does not reflect on literally everyone in the Amazing Digital Circus fan base. I do agree with Glitch that there are people up there who are great within that community in particular. Like, I get that, but that still doesn't change that there is still a very concerning amount within those groups that still let these things happen. That still doesn't change that Gooseworx got massively harassed to the point where she had to bail out of Reddit and completely delete her Reddit account. Not to mention the harassment that she would still be getting onto Twitter. It still doesn't change that we still have those amount of problematic people that are causing this to happen in the first place. And that's one thing I gotta disagree with Glitch Productions. If the if the whole community, like the entire community of the Amazing Digital Circus really is that great, they wouldn't let that shit happen. They wouldn't allow the harassment to really flourish to the point of Gooseworx to go and get that treatment, which is why it really feels like this response over here really feels like you're just trying to save your hide more so than wanting to save Goose, or to go and call, or to really put your ethics forward and to call out what is wrong. Like, you're honestly just scared of criticizing your own fan base because you just fear of getting that same treatment on your own. So, and that's really, honestly, it's sad to see this unfold. And again, this is one of the many problems within the cartoon community. I could go and list like so many of them. Honestly, like, there are days when I personally feel ready to go and make my own video just listing all the problems that are within the cartoon community, and like even some of the whole things like related to me. Like, honestly, like even the way that I've been treated just because of like, oh, I gave Wish an 8 out of 10 and considered it one of the best animated films of 2023. Like, that's still nothing compared to many of the other issues in which really highlights how the cartoon community is such a serious problem, and how the community is actually destroying the image of animation more so than any Disney live action remake ever could. And this is an example in which it shows the hypocrisy of what they would say. As much as they claim they love indie animation and stuff like that, they treat it no differently than how they would a Disney live action remake or anything that a major animation studio would go and produce, like either Disney, Sony, Illumination, DreamWorks, Pixar, or what have you. That they would go and treat it the same way, where they're so entitled, where they think that they know what the industry deserves, and it just leads to a lot more harm and a lot more people just getting attacked and stuff like that. It's just been, honestly, an absolute nightmare, and we need what we need. It's not crap like this. What we actually need is for people to go and to call this out. We need to be more vocal about the toxicity of the cartoon community. And this is especially the case with people in the cartoon, with like actual cartoon reviewers. Like we need more people like, say, you know, with Saber, Shafrilla's, Cartoon Sheep, Pan Pizza, Cell Specs. Like we need more of these people to call out even the core problems. And yes, even the stuff that they would do themselves, including some of that toxicity that is within the Disney hate, like all the attacks on all their new films and stuff like that, and even the anger towards the Disney live action remakes. It's gone to the point where like it's debatably becoming much worse than how I was with Sony Animation. And even they have to go and address this as well, because like if you're going to let them enable that type of behavior with the Disney films, then of course that's going to carry on over to projects like Fix, or even with the Amazing Digital Circus, with what it has been displayed over here. We need to take action. We need to be more vocal. This needs to be spread that the cartoon community has gotten seriously bad. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, and at this point, it doesn't matter if it's like, oh, not everyone is like this. There's just a few bad apples. The fact that there are those few bad apples is still a serious problem. And it's becoming a detriment to creators, to animators, and to the whole medium itself. So that's why, like, this is a big reason why I need to go and address this. Like, it's just been absolutely ridiculous and absolutely hypocritical, where the cartoon community claims that they love and support indie animation, but this type of treatment here, nah, that ain't it. You don't give a shit about indie animation. Stop lying. All right, now I'm going to go and take a break, by the way, just to go and reset the timer, because I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of comments. So I'm just going to go and immediately set that, and then I'll go and read what you have to say about this matter, because I'm sure many of you might have a lot to go and discuss about. So I'll give you the time to go and write, and then I'll be right back to go and read what you have to say in the chat wall. All right, welcome back. So let's see what the chat wall has to say. And while I will admit it's not a lot as I thought. Oh, okay, hold on. No, there's more actually coming in than I expect, but let's see what you all have to say. All right, so this is just super sad to see the cartoon community devolve so much like this. No matter how much you love or hate stuff from indie animation, it's never okay to harass them over something you don't like just to cater your ego. This is why the whole animation to cinema bit turns out to be a joke now that we have learned the dark truth about those types of people. I am so sick and tired of harassment being made like this. Pardon my language, but the cartoon community needs a fucking wake-up call. Exactly, man. I mean, like, if nobody else is going to go and do it, I mean, like, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to go and unleash the cartoon community and just make a whole video, just like basically calling them out on every single shot. And if that will ultimately lead to the destruction of the cartoon community as we know it, so be it. Because honestly, the medium is probably better off it's better off without how the fandom is right now. Animation Twitter is the reason why I left that site on September 30th, 2023. That was the last time I encountered after they attacked Wish and Jennifer Lee. That was crossing the line for me. I never looked back, and it was for the best. I've been making videos about how wonderful the creatives actually are compared to what the so-called fandom. Jennifer Lee is basically like a mother figure to me. She gave me a strong advice on continuing doing what I love, and she is simply very talented. But yeah. And I think the comment continued, but I don't see this going on. Oh, okay. Well, no, like, it's just, unfortunately, Twitch didn't provide more, like, of what you wrote. Anyways, I really love the Amazing Digital Circus. I get the feeling that it might not have a happy ending, since the series took inspiration from a 1960s short horror story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, though I do feel really bad for Gooseworx getting harassed. I mean, come on, you guys, leave her alone and let her do her own thing. This is why I don't go to fandoms, because of how toxic they can be. Also, Animat, have you heard about the news of who's voicing Amy Rose in Sonic the Hedgehog 4? Yes, apparently Anna is gonna be Amy Rose, or more specifically, Kristen Bell. So there's not a lot that I could really go and comment, but I mean, it does sound like a nice choice. We'll see how things go, but no, I mean, like, Kristen Bell is definitely a very talented actress, and the Frozen movies have certainly proved that. So, well, we'll wait and see with how that goes when the movie comes out. Anyways, back to this. I am a fan of the Amazing Digital Circus, and this honestly flat out disgusted. Seeing the fan base go to the point of harassing Gooseworx is just awful. And this really is another prime example of how the cartoon community does not give a crap about people who work on these projects and how fan bases can be toxic. It really does feel like these people have not learned from any of the mistakes done by people like Mr. Enter in the past, or Misanthropony, aka DS Station, with what he is doing right now, where they are so entitled to the point where, and the comment stops again, unfortunately. Anyways, the cartoon community has so many clowns that it's not funny anymore. This is why I stay away from that community as much as possible. I have contributed to some of those problems, and I hope to learn more in the future in order to better myself and to not make those same mistakes. Hey, honestly, great on you, dude. And I mean, I'm the same thing. I've had those toxic traits in the past, and I've learned to grow from it. In fact, the way that I was when looking back, like the way I was acting towards Sony Pictures Animation and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and stuff like that, honestly, it was because I had that same mentality that the cartoon community is right now. When I see like all the hate that they're giving on Disney and the live action remakes, it's pretty much the same thing. In fact, honestly, when I see all those negative reviews of Wish, they're no different than how I was with my Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs reviews. Even with some of the prominent like YouTubers, like when they would do their Wish hate videos, y'all just doing the same shit that I was back then. Y'all ain't any different. I'm just saying. Let's see now. When they are so entitled. Okay. Anyways, any other comments for me to go and read? Just see. Man, I can't believe the animation community is like this, and it's just terrible. It reminds me of an animation channel called Avery Animation, and he was harassed for his animation because his animation doesn't look that good, despite that he's just a freaking teenager. So yeah, this is my example. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's just a shame. Like, I mean, for God's sakes, like, you got to realize, like, some people are just kids. And at that point, it's not really a great idea to go and, like, you know, be that harsh. Anyways, I am also a fan of the Amazing Digital Circus, and I find it's one of the best animated series I've seen. It's such a shame that parts of the fan base is harassing Gooseworx for making Pomni and Jax the focus of the last 2 episodes. It entirely goes against the message of the series, and it goes to show that some fans can't seem to get that creators are still people. Oh yeah, and that's also like the major problem. The thing is with the cartoon community is that regardless of where of what the project is, they value the product, the cartoons themselves, more so than the people behind them. They think that those cartoons have more value than the creators who would go and create them. And that's where you unfortunately end up with this apathetic mentality where they don't care about they don't care about whoever's behind the scenes. If they feel like the cartoon themselves are not up to their standards, then the people are just there in order to go and blame. That's why I feel like nowadays, and this is going to be a hot take, but the people who are still mad at me nowadays, calling me the Sony animation hater, and are still upset at me for being negative towards Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and Hotel Transylvania, those people, they don't give a shit about the people behind the scenes. They don't care about the animators at Sony Pictures Animation. They don't care. Like, for them, it didn't matter how I was behaving and what I was calling the creators, the animators, and those behind the scenes. They only cared about the fact that, oh, I said that those movies are bad, and that's it. And that's why they still have this grudge against me for my opinions, for my comments on that. And this is honestly why not many people talk about this, but I feel like the fact that I'm still living in their heads, like living in there rent free, is why the fandoms of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and Hotel Transylvania are stupidly toxic. Like people, like not many people have often brought that up, but I just need to go and address that there. All right. Anyways, I think I'll read one more comment and then we'll go and move on from that. Or we're going to go and end off the episode. There are only a few reasons why I don't bother to ever join them. I just don't want to be someone in part of the crossfires, even if it means to love something that people will hate. I mean, Nickelodeon never catches a break. Even my grandma says if someone doesn't treat you nice, doesn't mean that you have to be a bully too. I could say I am happy to stay in my own lane and not bother to be part of any community. By the way, did you get my Blue Sky post? I found something you worked on. Yeah. We'll definitely be talking about that later. But you know what? That's actually a good lesson to go and close this off with. If someone doesn't treat you nice, doesn't mean that you have to be a bully too. So essentially, just don't be a freaking bully. It doesn't matter what the reason is. Just freaking don't. Okay? And with that said, folks, that should do it for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And what a wild ride this has been. And thank you all so much for joining me on this epic adventure. And we'll tune in next time to see what more crazy stories on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast will unfurl. So with that said, I would like to go and say that if you guys enjoyed your time here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, don't forget to go and subscribe to the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel or the AniMat Live Twitch channel. At the same time, if you are listening to me on whatever podcast service you are listening to, rather it be on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and so much more, don't forget to go and follow me there. And with that said, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.